Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space, and hear a bit about their story and some of the tips and tricks that they can provide as well that we can maybe implement into our own lives as well. We talk to CEOs, we talk to entrepreneurs, athletes, lots of different people. We have a really interesting guest coming up today. Just before we jump into that, if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know we have a connection with Epitome Sportswear. And when it's sportswear, it's not just the high performance athletes, which we have lots of those that listen, but also those people who just want to be able to perform at their best in all the different things that they do. And that might be taking their kids to a soccer game. It might be going out for a hike on their own, or it might be kind of working out in a gym and having the right gear for that. The other thing that we really like about them is that they believe in giving back to the communities that they serve as well. And they're working to impact the inequities in opportunity for girls and women in sport. And for that reason, a portion of their profits go directly to organizations and initiatives that support girls in sports. So definitely check that out. You can go to their website, which is epitome, EPITOME, sportswear.com, or you can go directly to our Instagram profile and go through there, and you can see a link to that as well. So definitely check that out and see if it's something that might interest you as well. So today, really happy that you might actually already know Elena Dubaich, and she is, you'd know her probably from her role on Bravo's hit reality show Below Deck Mediterranean. She joined the show in season 7 and has quickly become a popular member of the cast there. Her international experience and love of language opened lots of doors for her. She focused on cruise work, which we'll talk about, and then on to chartered and private yachts before landing the role that she's in now on Below Deck as well. So first of all, Elena, thanks very much for joining the show and
Thank
spending some
you.
time with us today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and hopefully bring some inspiration.
Yeah. Well, you jumped into Below Deck in kind of mid to late season, and
Yeah.
so maybe the first question would be, was that stressful to kind of jump into something where the cast is already kind of working through stuff and things like that? What was that like for you to jump in the middle or late part of that season?
Yeah. Well, honestly, at that point, I wasn't even expecting that I was going to be on the show. I
Yeah,
was like, okay, it's over. Maybe next season. I was already like basically packing my bags to go home.
yeah,
And it was such a surprise for me that I even got a chance to participate in that season. And I was excited about it, but at the same time, I was worried because I didn't know what happened to the previous person.
yeah,
So I thought, I mean, how bad did things have to get that this person was dismissed like so late into the season? Like, surely they could have lasted like a few more days with this person, right? So I was
yeah,
thinking, I'm coming into a cesspool. This is gonna be toxic. It's gonna be horrible. I was worried, yeah. But
yeah.
then when I got there, like Natasha was so nice, the chief stewardess, and Natalia, they were both they received me with open arms, and everybody was so welcoming. So it quickly went away.
Yeah. Well, and obviously it's you've kind of probably been in a bit of a roller coaster since then, of suddenly having this profile too, because I would assume that has been how's that been getting used to going from, doing your job, but now suddenly having this whole different profile that's a more of a TV personality profile.
Yeah. Well, it's been positive for the most part.
Yeah.
You always run into people who kind of don't like it.
Hmm.
They can
Hmm.
find it a little bit intimidating.
Yep.
And these are people who are not focused on growth. That's a major, major thing that I want to promote is always focus on yourself, focus on your own growth.
Hmm.
Bringing other people down is not going to help you in any way. There's plenty of success to go around for all of us. We can all succeed. We can all support each other. So yeah, that's one major thing that I've noticed that also want to bring up.
Yeah, suddenly, I mean, especially with all the discussion that happens and all those things, there's lots of negative stuff
Yeah,
that comes out when it is something like this, and
exactly.
it's good for you to highlight that right away, that is a big difference. So,
Yeah.
so before we get into some of that stuff too, why don't we talk a little bit about, I know you're a real language aficionado. That's part of what's opened some doors for you, but talk to us a little bit about how you even got here, like what your career journey, because I think it is a little bit different than some.
Yes, my career journey is quite different because I'm a very intuitive person, So once I feel like something might be right, I kind of jump into it.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it turns out to be, the correct piece of the puzzle I needed. So it takes a lot of courage to do that, but sometimes you just gotta trust your path a little bit and trust your instincts and take that leap. And that's how I ended up here, from being a translator to kind of getting this feeling that, oh, this is not quite right for me. Maybe I need more adventure. Then I thought of working on cruise ships. I didn't know what I could do on cruise ships, but still, like I had this, desire to try it out. So I figured it out. I went to meet up with a cruise ship agent just to ask for advice,
Mhm,
and that lady happened to have been a spa manager
mhm.
when she worked on cruise ships. So she recommended this amazing massage school for me in Ljubljana. She said, it's an incredible school. The teachers are really good. Why don't you give it a try and see if you like it? So this is my life motto. Just give it a try. See if you like it. If you don't, it's
Yeah,
okay, but
yeah,
just give it a try. So
yeah,
I gave it a try and I loved it. And it became a true passion of mine, massage therapy. I've been a masseuse for like 8 years now. And that's also what opened all these doors for me to work on these beautiful yachts.
yeah. Well, and so that's been interesting as well. That you begin to get more international experience, and I just wonder, like for a
Yeah.
lot of people, how important is that for you? Because um, you have been to many different countries. You speak different languages that
Mm.
obviously have probably been honed through some of that as well. How important has that been that you've been able to be open to different international experiences?
International experiences are so important for your personal growth. You have to get out there, expose yourself to different people, because the main thing it opens up in your mind is understanding that there are different perspectives of looking at things.
Hmm.
If you're not exposed to that, you can get trapped in this mindset. Oh, so this is the correct perspective, this is the correct way, and this is the only way it should be done. Everything else is wrong. And that's you cannot succeed thinking that way. You have to be able to understand, even if you don't agree. We don't have to agree with everything, but we have to be able to understand where another person is coming from, and that's how you can open a dialogue and find a common ground with them.
Yeah.
So that was a major thing that I learned.
Well, and an important thing, probably now more than ever, there's a lot of
Yes.
that's a challenge, I think, in lots of
Yes.
places. So tell us about how you obviously are a bit of a risk taker when it comes to those
Mm.
things. Um, how did it even come up that you might decide to kind of apply to be on Below Deck, and like how does that even happen, and how did the process work for you?
So below deck, for the most part, the way they find people is they just reach out. They look through social media. There's these yachty pages that we all follow. So there's kind of a way
Yep.
to find yachties.
Yep.
So they would usually reach out. But for me, actually, at that point, I was not a big social media person. I had no social media. I had
Yeah.
my Instagram profile. It was like private. I only had a few people there. I didn't want anything to do with it. So there was no way for them to find me.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to apply. So there is an application process online. And one day I was actually on a boat and I thought, you know what? I feel like this might open up some new doors for me. It's out of my comfort zone. It was way out of my comfort zone then.
Yeah.
But I felt like I needed to push myself a little bit. And yeah, just one day right before the guests came on board, actually, we were just getting ready to get the guests. I was like, okay, this is my chance. Quickly, I went into a guest cabin because it was like a nice settings, and I quickly recorded a little submission video and sent it, and then from there just had a bunch of interviews and got on.
Wow. Well, very interesting. And um, you know, has has that changed your like has it changed your own goals like now that when you because you have certain ones and obviously you've jumped on different opportunities that have come up but now you've probably broadened those things pretty considerably being on something like this, so how
Yeah.
has that changed your approach to your own goals and what you want to do?
Well, honestly, although the TV exposure hasn't been that wasn't that long for me,
Yeah.
um, in terms of mindset, it changed a lot for me because, like I said, I went from being, a person that was uncomfortable with social media to somebody who is 100% comfortable putting everything out there. And you really, really have to be comfortable with who you are and work on your fear of judgment of others. And that's something I've really, really, really worked on over the past couple of years.
Mhm.
And that's actually the main change in mindset that has allowed me to, try all these new things. So, I mean, getting into Web3 now, that's something new.
Mm.
Making
Wow.
my own collection of NFTs, why not?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm not claiming I'm a professional NFTs, but I do have a team of experts who've been in the industry for a long time, so I trust them fully that they know what they're doing. So yeah, that's something interesting I'm trying.
Yeah, wow, very cool. And that's the one thing is that even before that, when you were working on kind of just different luxury yachts and you're dealing with people that are kind of obviously have a lot of money, have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
influence, things like that. What have you learned through just being either around those people, but also are there things that surprised you in when suddenly you have been around those individuals?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it was quite daunting at first,
Hmm.
going from a cruise ship to a yacht because it's definitely a different type of clientele.
Hmm.
So at first, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but in any case, I wasn't going to fake anything. I knew that, I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be my genuine self and have approach them like just regular people. And, that's the best I can do. And it turned out to be the best approach because, these people who have such a high profile, I mean, we're talking multiple billions of dollars, this
Yeah,
is like real wealth.
yeah,
So they are always surrounded by people who are trying to get something out of them, playing angles. So they don't respond well to that. So that's why I always had the best relationship with every boat owner, every charter guest, because I took a genuine approach with them.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a good
Well,
policy to have.
yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I think people all want that in some way or
Yeah,
another. It doesn't matter
yeah,
what your wealth status is and everything else.
yeah.
So the other side is and this may be something different because it depends on what you're doing at any one time with the show or with what work. But how do you try to
Mm-hmm.
balance things so that you know whether it's your own wellness and
Mm-hmm.
obviously work and that can be really long hours, I'm sure at times, and all of those things. Do you have an approach to that? Like, is it balance for you or is it something different?
Currently, it's more balanced because I've taken a little bit of a step outside of yachting. I've got my little apartment here in Fort Lauderdale, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to settle down slowly. So it's improved, but when I am on board, it's not balanced at
Yeah.
all. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
mean, work definitely takes over and it can be exhausting. But at the same time, you kind of learn how to take these moments mentally,
Hmm.
even when you're in the most busy hectic environment. You have to go kind of inside of yourself because that's the only place you have, and find peace in there regardless of like what's going on around you. And that's a big skill I learned. I cannot practice it all the time. I'm not Gandhi, but
Yeah.
every once in a while, it definitely helps to calm things down and help get you through.
Yeah. Does it help that I mean, as because you're a massage therapist and probably done
Yeah.
some of those, does it help that you actually know some of the practices that you use to try to calm yourself, or do you uh
Actually, yeah. Actually, now that you've mentioned it, maybe that's why. Because being a masseuse for 8 years, especially on cruise ships, I have done thousands of massages.
yeah.
And that's like hours upon hours of, silent
Hmm.
reflection. Some people talk, but you spend like thousands of hours just being silent with
Yeah.
this person,
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I developed that technique.
Really? Yeah, interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we did talk about is how it is a little different when you're in the public eye, I guess. But how
Mhm.
um, has that really changed for you? I mean, now that you've changed, you've talked about how you've moved to Fort Lauderdale. I mean, some of those things, does it is it different now that not just on social media, but probably people do recognize you and things like that? Is it different being in the public eye where maybe you weren't in the same way before? Has that been challenging or has it been okay?
It has been okay. It is a little bit different for sure because, um, for example, in terms of content I post, I'm being my genuine self, but at the same time, I know that people are a lot, people are looking at it. So I want to provide value,
Yeah.
you know. Um, Not always because it's not my niche to be like a motivational speaker, but every once in a while provide a little bit of value. You can tell people, express how you feel, tell them it's if you're being judged, it's okay. Back yourself. All these, just share who you are as a person, and I feel that really really helps. So I do want to get a little bit of a message out there, and maybe help others at least a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have, I mean, you've traveled and increased pretty quickly in your career.
Mm.
Um, do you have mentors that you kind of look to when you've done that? Like how did that work for you? Did you have certain people you looked to, or did you just take bits of different things as you went along? How's that work for you?
Mentors, um I don't have a specific person in mind, but I definitely am a very observant person and a very self-aware person. I don't seem that way all the time, but yeah, it's who I am on the inside. So
Yeah.
whenever I meet somebody, and even if it's like a little thing that maybe they triggered in me, and I took some time to ask myself, well, why did that trigger me? How can what was it in my mindset that this thing triggered? So, and then from there, I would kind of like improve a little piece of my mindset. So it wouldn't be like a mentor that I'm following fully, but it would be like a little piece of like each and every person I interact with that helps me grow as a person.
Yeah, yeah. And as you kind of think of, I mean, obviously you've got things going on right now, but as like, when you set goals of what you want to do next, what you want to kind of jump into, are you the person who kind of writes things down, or do you just kind of take things as they come? I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like a lot of times there's been lots of opportunities where you just jump at the next opportunity. Is that
Yes.
how you approach things, or?
Yes. 100%. Yeah, I am the ultimate go with the flow person.
Yeah.
I kind of my guidance is how I feel. If I feel comfortable in a situation, if I feel like I'm growing, I'm learning, it tells me, okay, I'll stay here, or I'll explore this situation more. Once I start feeling uncomfortable, feeling like, okay, this is not right, something's off here, I will remove myself from the situation. So I'm not attached to external circumstances so much. It's more about my personal growth and just exploring different aspects of life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's so. one thing that you're obviously very good at is the risk taking part, and a lot of people like that's the biggest challenge for a lot of people. Do you think is it like is that just innate in you that oh yeah okay I take a risk and it doesn't worry me, or is it do you have to really work on taking the risk like some people do?
I do have to work on it. It does worry me.
Hmm.
I'm not, completely carefree, but it's kind of like sometimes if like I said, if your intuition is telling you that something might be right, you feel like something might be there. That's kind of the kindling for me to take that opportunity. And the biggest skill you need to develop being that way is trust. Trust. I'm a spiritual person, so I trust my own path. I trust that I'm here for some sort of purpose, some sort of reason. I'm not just like random person on a random rock doing random things. So that really helps me, that little spiritual aspect of things.
Yeah.
So I had to develop a lot of trust in the process, even if you can't see it right now, even if you can't see every step of the way. Just do as much as you can, as much as you're comfortable with, and gradually you'll get to where you're going.
And has there been, I mean, I'm sure you've met lots of really interesting people. I'm sure you've had some really cool experiences. Is there something that stands out to you that is like almost a highlight to date? Like I mean, is there something that thought, wow, that was just really, really cool. Is there something that stands out for you?
Well, yes. So maybe two things, a little yin and yang answer here.
Yeah.
So I've worked for some of the wealthiest people in the world, and one of them really inspired me because he moved to America many years ago from utter poverty. I mean, he moved from a third world country and had almost no money to his name, right? So when he got here, he got a job. His first job was being a dishwasher at the hostel where he was staying. And I think he was making maybe like $1 a day or $1 an hour, something very, very minimal. But the thing that stood out for me from that story was that minimal amount in our minds for him was wealth.
Yeah.
Because in his mind, he thought, I don't know anybody in my country who makes this amount of money. I've never met a person my entire life making this amount of money. And it just goes to show you the power of somebody's mindset and perspective. Because somebody from the developed world having that same job would feel like an utter failure. What am I doing with my life? This is horrible. um, but then another person with a completely different perspective, same amount of money, gets it into his mind, I am the wealthiest person, I'm in the 1%, I'm so blessed, I'm so incredibly blessed to have this amount of money. And from that mindset, he actually later on got into the 1%, but that's the kindling that got him started.
Wow, really
That's
interesting.
one story.
Yeah.
That's one story that stands out
Yeah.
to me. But then I also had a couple other owners who maybe even had more money,
Mhm.
but they got it in a different way. So they already came from like wealthy families and whatnot, and then made more money on their own, but they weren't focusing on the mindset so much.
Mhm.
So they had all this money and all these large boats, even larger than the first person, but they weren't focusing on how the people around them were feeling. So they got surrounded by a lot of people who were there just for the perks.
Mhm.
They weren't focusing on their interpersonal relationships, and they weren't focusing on enjoying life for themselves. So they had all this stuff. It was all about the external, but they would be like, oh, nitpicking, oh, this little thing is off, like, oh, little speck of dust, like, you're on 140-meter yacht. This is like insane how blessed you are, and you're spending your entire day ruining your own day over a speck of dust or over a little tiny little detail. So that's what stood out for me the most.
Yeah. Wow.
It's all about
And it does show you perspective on both of those. Like I think
yes,
that's a really interesting and kind of telling piece of information for those people listening who haven't experienced both of those. But that's
exactly.
same kind of environment. It's just different ways of looking at it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's not about, oh, rich people aren't happy or money doesn't, it's not about money. It's
Yeah.
about how you see things, because two people with $10 billion, same amount of money, one person can be the happiest person alive and the other person can be the most miserable person alive. And it's all about how they see things.
Yeah. Wow. Well, very cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's great. Um, and then so obviously we've talked about all these opportunities that you've been able to have and take advantage of. There's lots of people out there probably listening, like going through that same thing where we talked about, risk does take some guts to do and to
Mm-hmm.
push yourself a little bit. Do you have if somebody out there's listening and thinking, I really do want to create more opportunities in my life, or I have an opportunity but I'm scared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a couple of tips like how people can kind of get past that fear and move it ahead?
Uh, well, you really gotta think about, I mean, I don't have any, 3 steps, 4 steps, none of that. If for me,
Yep.
it's all about, spiritual and deep thinking.
Mhm.
So you have to ask yourself what your purpose in life is. You have to understand, um, we are not here forever. Okay, this is it. In terms of this lifetime, this is it.
Mhm.
So you've got to choose your own happiness. You have to care about having a full life experience rather than having a certain outcome or having a certain person's approval. So if you're out here focusing on the approval of the society, the approval of my environment, people's judgment, you're never going to take any steps. So you have to focus on yourself, understand you have one lifetime to be who you are, and understand that one way to appreciate your life is to have the courage to explore different paths, explore different parts of your personality, explore different skills, different talents. Maybe you're good at it, maybe you're not good at it. But the joy is just the exploration, the journey, you know? Maybe I'm a good massage therapist. Let me give it a try. Oh, turns out I am. Oh, maybe I'm a good, you know, NFT person. I don't know. Let's see. Let's find out. That's what's excited about it. Don't focus on the outcome so much, but more on the growth you'll get.
Yeah. Oh, that's great, great advice, and I'm sure lots of people will kind of take that to heart. Um, in the next little while, Elena, what do you have going on? First of all, coming up over the next little while, and then
Yeah.
also if people are trying to follow that, how can they maybe kind of connect with you and follow that?
Yeah. So currently, I am taking some courses because I wanted to grow my yachting career.
Hmm.
I do want to, have the skills of a chief stewardess. So I'm taking a lot of bartending courses, learning about wine and all kinds of things, just for the heck of it, because I want
Yeah.
to learn. And maybe I go back as a chief stew, maybe not, but it's fun to learn. I'm working on my NFTs. I'm working on, you know, I've got a fan page going, all kinds of things. So, but ultimately, I want to open up my own spa here in Fort Lauderdale. So everything I'm doing is kind of focused on saving the money or, getting the funding to open up my own spa.
Very cool, very cool. And if people want to follow you, what are the best ways to do
Yeah.
that?
The the best place is Instagram. I have all my links there, and it's the Balkan biscuit.
All
I'm from the
right.
Balkans. It's
Yes.
Balkan biscuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so we'll do that. We'll put that in the show notes as well so people can click through and
Thanks.
follow Elena and what she's doing. And we'll also put the links into your show so people can see the show as well if they haven't already done that. And,
Thank you.
again, thank you very much for taking the time and sharing so openly about all of the experiences that you had. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, to speak about it, and I really, really hope I get to inspire somebody even a little bit. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
thank you.
sure. I'm sure you have. There's lots of great stuff in today's episode. Really appreciate it. And to everybody listening, if you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do that now. We have great people every week, just like Elena. And again, thank you very much. And to everybody listening, we will talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.
Appreciate you, Jamie. Very kind of you. Thank you for having me. Take care,
Thanks, Elena.
everybody.